Hello again. I'm Joe McTurnan, AOPA's Director of Health Policy and Advocacy. Thanks for joining me today for another edition of AOPA's Take. We are just about a month into the new presidential administration, and regardless of anyone's political leanings, I think we can all agree that the so-called status quo is no longer how Washington, D.C. is operating. Candidate Trump built his campaign on the promise of reforming the federal government. And President Trump has not backed away from this philosophy, as his second administration has begun. Every federal agency has been placed under a microscope by the Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and the impact of this scrutiny has been immediate and significant. As AOPA is intentionally an apolitical organization that prides itself on the ability to work with partners on both sides of the aisle, I will leave the political debate for the hallways of the upcoming Academy meeting. What I'd like to discuss in this edition of AOPA's Take are some of the impacts that actions of the new administration have or may have on your O&P business. From tariffs to funding of federal programs to the federal budget process. Every department and agency of the federal government is under tremendous scrutiny at the moment. And one of the first executive orders issued was a temporary freeze on many sources of federal funding to allow time for a thorough review of programs. This has created disruption in funding streams for healthcare research, including those specific to orthotics and prosthetics. Our partners at the Amputee Coalition have especially faced challenges from federal funding uncertainties, as the federal grant that supports the National Limb Loss Center may be directly impacted. AOPA recently sent a communication to members asking them to support the Amputee Coalition in any way that they can, as their work for those living with limb loss and limb difference is so important. While the initial executive order created confusion that resulted in temporary lack of access to Medicaid funding and systems, those seem to have been restored for the immediate future. As the 119th Congress moves forward with a budgetary process known as reconciliation, the administration and Congress will be looking for ways to save money in the budget. The House Energy and Commerce Committee has been tasked with finding $880 million over 10 years in budgetary savings. While Medicare is not likely a target to achieve these savings, there are indications that Medicaid programs are in play as a source for budget savings. If states have federal funding for Medicaid programs reduced, programmatic cuts are likely and may include reduced benefits for O&P care. Other programs at risk include federally funded research programs, including those that lead to advancements in prosthetic and orthotic care. Potential increases in tariffs for goods that are imported to the U.S. from foreign countries may have a direct impact on O&P businesses, who will most likely see their costs for O&P components and devices rise, with no subsequent increase in reimbursement. AOPA was instrumental in securing an exemption from the medical device excise tax several years ago, but the pathway to tariff exemptions is far more complicated and challenging to navigate. As AOPA moves towards reintroduction of the Medicare O&P Patient-Centered Care Act in the 119th Congress, we also will be paying close attention to the volatility that is impacting even the most basic government processes. AOPA will continue to be your advocate in Washington, D.C., and will be sure to provide updates as soon as we are able to do so. And as always, AOPA's Take, where you go when you need to know.